the very reason why I'm here speaking to you and playing these shows today is because I said yes to everything. Because I said yes to every single show. I said yes to every single interview.
I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, now I say no to a lot. No, this is a special
thing. I don't turn anything down. I don't believe you, me. You know.
This is a new chapter for me. This is very special, and that's why I said yes. Thank you.
How's it going?
I'm doing very well.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I cut you off when we were talking beforehand that you're here playing Massey Hall, and you said it has the Neil Young.
It has Neil Young energy, yeah. There's some photos of him playing there. And we actually just saw our friends in Always who stopped by and said that they saw him at Massey Hall. And so, yeah, it feels really special. It's a lovely place, and it's nice because it's been a long time coming. The last 2 Toronto shows we had scheduled, we had to cancel. And so, yeah, it's been years since we've played Toronto, and it feels really great to be back again.
You had to cancel, was it pandemic-y?
The first time we had to cancel, half the band got wiped out by COVID.
Oh,
and the second one, we had a close friend pass away, and so we all went to his funeral.
I'm glad you made it.
Yeah.
I told you this before, but it's a really, really beautiful record.
Thank you.
Melancholy. Was Melancholy on your mind making this record?
It was. I mean, when I wrote Jubilee, it was following 2 records about grief and then a book about grief. And so I really wanted to show another side of myself and write an album about joy. And in a way, it was sort of this self-mythologizing of giving myself permission to feel joy after grieving my mom.
Sorry, can you help me understand that? Self-mythologizing around giving myself room to express joy.
Well, I think that there is a I mean, I think music is really interesting in that way where you are this sort of character in it all. And so there's ways to almost, I think, push yourself towards feeling a certain way, you know?
Yeah.
When you're making a record, you're really living in certain feelings. So if you're curating a theme around joy, I think it was a way for me to allow myself to give permission to feel that way and revel in songs that were around that theme. And then, you know, I'm at a place in my life as an artist where my work is kind of in communication with itself. And after 3 years of touring a very extroverted, bombastic album about joy, I felt very introverted, and there were things that I missed doing. And Melancholy kind of ended up being the sort of thread of this new record. And I knew I wanted to do something with a sort of darker palette after this very bright yellow record came out, and touring it for 3 years.
And not as autobiographical, the record, though. I didn't get the feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think my work is always, especially in music, has one thing I really like about songwriting is you can kind of float in and out of nonfiction and fiction. There are a lot of personal songs on the record, but maybe they're a little bit more cryptic lyrically.
Yeah.
And they're all about people that are kind of regretting something, or like looking at time and how it passes and sort of ruining missed opportunities or longing for different lives. And that I feel like is very fitting for my age and what's going on in my mind at this time.
Well, maybe we'll explore that through some of the songs in just a minute. But I wanted to talk about what I was talking about in the intro, which is that Jubilee becomes a big hit. Crying in H Mart becomes bigger than anyone ever could have expected it to become. No disrespect to the book, but books don't ever get that big anymore.
Certainly,
It was incredible, and it was an amazing book, and I'm glad it caught the audience that it did. It was a New York Times bestseller, one of the most talked about books of the year. What I find interesting in listening to this record is the idea of desire, and desire not always being a great thing, and then what happens when you're the dog that catches the car? What happens when you get what you're looking for? When you dreamed of success before you had it, what were you dreaming of? And when you got it, what did it look and feel like?
That's a great question. I mean, since I was 16 years old, I wanted to be a professional musician. But to me, that looked like a band like Built to Spill, touring in a 15-passenger van and staying at Holiday Inns and playing venues like the Crystal Ballroom in Portland, or, like 800, 500 cap places. And I was so excited for that life and could only dream of that. And then once you get there and it gets bigger, it just gets really scary, you know. I never anticipated being on SNL or the Grammy nominations or playing, you know, Massey Hall, these types of places. And so, you know, kind of ironically during this album cycle about joy, I was feeling very introverted and very scared, honestly, that I wasn't going to be able to live up to these sort of expectations.
How did that manifest itself?
I had terrible stage fright, honestly, for 3 years. I'd never had that before.
You'd never had that?
I've always been like kind of an extroverted ham. And so I've always enjoyed performing and I never felt nervous. And then suddenly, you know, I think part of it too is this record came out fresh out of the pandemic. And so we were going from not seeing anyone to suddenly playing the biggest shows of our lives. And that all manifested weirdly in my stomach. I was having like all of these stomach pains that were all psychological. I was very, very scared. And so it was really helpful for me to just take a year off and kind of reset. And now I'm feeling really great and very happy. You know, fittingly on a melancholic album cycle, actually feeling a lot of joy.
What do you only now realize in hindsight that something wasn't right, or did you have some awareness of it in the moment?
I was definitely very aware of it in the moment, but I didn't realize how much stress and pressure can manifest in the body. I thought I was struggling with some kind of illness. But then when I went to Korea for a year, all of that kind of reset, and I realized how all of that was just mental, which was pretty wild.
That is pretty wild. I'm sorry you had to go through that, because I think that we think that like, I would just talk to people who would desperately want that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to talk much about it because I don't, you know, I think some of the record's narrative has been like success almost killed her and woe is me, celebrity is difficult.
There's more mythologizing.
But yeah,
it's
but
great.
I mean,
yeah.
it's not, I want to be clear, like it's not me being upset about where I was. It was mostly just wanting so badly to rise to the occasion and all of that pressure of just, can I deliver what people want from me? And I want to give that. I mean, what a miracle to have this job and have all these people come to the show and be able to play on live television. But then mentally, there's this part of you that's like, I don't know if it was ever meant to be this big. And that kind of pressure can manifest in strange ways.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's listen to a little bit of the record. How about that?
Quietly dreaming of slower days, but I don't want to let you down. We've come so far. Can you see a life where we leave this behind?
That's Japanese Breakfast with Here Is Someone off the record for Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women. Tell me about that song.
Yeah, I wrote that song and it felt like a great introduction to the record because it's sort of about thinking of what my life could look like if I wasn't a touring musician. I mean, there was a moment where I thought maybe I couldn't continue to live this way because it was really wreaking havoc on my mental health. And also because I'm a woman in my 30s and I want to start a family, I was really grappling with if that's possible, you know? I mean, I look at these amazing musicians like Dolly Parton and Stevie Nicks who have kind of left that on the table, you know, for their own reasons. But, you know, you have to wonder if so much of their life is devoted to their work, that some things come as a sacrifice. And I think a lot of this record is about that, is kind of ruing that this is a question that a female artist really has to think about. And who am I if I, you know, this sort of anticipatory mourning of who am I if it's not my work, and if I start a family, what kind of life can I handle? That quiet of a life? Do I long for that quiet of a life? So yeah, that song is about questioning if I could ever leave, how those two identities could coexist together.
Yeah, the idea that, you know, this is hurting me. This is really this is destructive for me in some ways, like my body and my mind. I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
But I can't. I don't know if I can do this. And also, there's a quieter life that I think I want, or I'm afraid of passing the date on, or I'm afraid of missing out on, or am I? And then on top of that, you also have people who depend on you.
Yeah.
I heard that in the song too.
Yeah.
You have musicians you work with.
Yeah.
You have a crew you work with, you have accountants, you have people who rely on you. A lot of people don't think about when artists talk about stopping or taking time away. You're also stopping people's livelihoods and people's children who are in school.
Yeah.
As much as you want to talk about here, how did that conversation go?
I was really terrified to tell the band that I was going to take a year off, but they took it so well. I mean, most of them were very actually just excited about having a year to do their own projects, you know? I mean, all of them are really creative, talented people with their own thing, and so I think just knowing in advance that they were going to have a year to do something else, you know, most of them were really supportive and also really excited for me because they knew that it was something that was important to me. So I kind of didn't give them the credit they deserved because I was really afraid about their reaction, but they were all very supportive and sweet about it.
In terms of the decision to stop, I read something that you met Karen O somewhere and she had some advice for you?
Yeah, I met her a few times now. We opened for them at Forest Hills and the Hollywood Bowl. And then
was she meaningful to you? Was she?
Yeah, so I talk about it in the book, but I mean, she was the first half Korean woman. I mean, she was just the first woman I saw like rock a stage like that, and, you know, spit at the audience and like strangle herself with a, you know, microphone cable. So she was everything that, you know, any Korean mother tells you not to be. And that was so exciting for me and a big reason why I think I felt the courage I did to start playing music. And then to get to meet her and be able to call her a friend and get this sort of sage rock advice from her has been so special. But I think the biggest takeaway from, you know, our conversations is that, you know, not to be afraid to say no. And I look at her career too as just not only this amazing front woman, but, you know, someone who's done score work and written rock operas, and she's so creative. And no one is ever not going to wait around for her to do something, you know. So that was her big piece of advice, is like the power of no. And I think that was really hard for me as someone who came from a DIY background and feels like the very reason why I'm here speaking to you and playing these shows today is because I said yes to everything. Because I said yes to every single show. I said yes to every single interview.
I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, now I say no to a lot. No, this is a special
thing. I don't turn anything down. I don't believe me. You know.
This is a new chapter for me. This is very special, and that's why I said yes. But before that, I mean, I was doing, you know, 8 interviews a day and playing 6 shows in a row, and you know, I just felt like I had to say yes to everything. That it was really hard to uncouple that from like, okay, now that you've reached a certain place, like you need to learn how to some self-preservation and how to say no, and actually more opportunities will come your way if you are a little bit more exclusive with your time.
I mean, I don't want to speak for the audience here, but like for me, because I think you don't have to be a touring musician to feel that way. I can't say no. But for me, I don't say no. I don't know why this is actually making me strangely emotional. I don't say no because I'm afraid it'll go away.
Yeah.
You know, I don't say no to things because I figure the no there won't be any opportunities for yeses.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a scarcity mentality, I feel like, of no. But, you know, that was the big piece of advice that she gave me, was like, it actually just gets bigger. Like, no is the most powerful tool that you have to like, and I've already seen that happen, you know. Saying no to some things actually means that I've had a couple of weeks off and then something big comes in that I wouldn't have had time for otherwise. And I'm so glad that I got that opportunity because I said no to things that I didn't really care about.
So is that the delineating advice? I mean, I'm doing the movie version of your. It doesn't help when you write a book about your life that I have sort of an idea of you in my mind. In the movie version of your life, she says that, and then you go home, and the next shot is you on your laptop booking a flight to Seoul.
Emailing no. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And being like, no to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, I had a very safe out. You know, my publisher wanted my second book and told me they'd take whatever I wanted to write about. And I just love the idea of doing one thing. Because when you're a musician, you have to do interviews, you have to do social media, you have to like play shows, you have to do rehearsals. There's so many different things that you're juggling. You're like designing merch and all this stuff. And I just wanted to do one thing for 1 year and see how far I could get if like my entire mental capacity went into that thing, which was to learn Korean. And so for the year, I just went to language school and I did tutoring and I just did my homework and just thought and spoke exclusively in Korean. I only watched Korean movies and listened to Korean music. And it was such an intellectually stimulating, enriching period of my life. It was so beautiful. And I feel very healed by that experience.
How does that moment, because then you have to go, you're back on the road.
Now I'm back, yeah.
You also can't, you can't get sick all these pressures are still there. It just feels like you're dealing with them differently.
Yeah, it does feel like I'm dealing with them differently. I think I needed to wipe the slate clean and like approach it in a different way. I think that there were just a lot of growing pains from the last 3 years of getting bigger in a certain way. And now a lot of those, even though the shows are bigger, that initial leap of just like, we're a bus band now, we're a band with crew. These things are just a little bit easier. It's funny too. I saw a fortune teller in Korea when I was in December.
Where?
And in Seoul and in Paju actually. And I asked her, I've been struggling with this stage fright. I'm about to go back to the U.S. Is that going to be like, how do I cope with that? Is that going to be an issue? And she was just like, no, like you're not going to have it. It's just not going to be there anymore. And I have just chosen to like wholeheartedly believe that that's the reason why. And I've felt very chill and I don't have stage fright anymore. And I feel very, there are other steps that I've taken that are more real. But that is also mentally like what I'm latched onto, and I just no longer feel stage fright, weirdly.
There are some theories that what fortune tellers are, assuming we don't fully believe them, assuming that someone listening to this might say like, is that they're just incredibly intuitive people, to mean that like that stuff was already in you.
Yeah.
Like that stuff, the ability to go like, I'm going to power through. I'm going to be good. I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to be fine.
I think it was also just realizing that I wasn't actually dealing with something like all of my physical ailments were all linked to stress and pressure. And then I think coming to that realization by living abroad for a year and not having those pressures and realizing how intensely connected they were, I was able to be like, okay, the only way that you're going to get through this is to uncouple those things. And so I think I've just been more cognizant of that and, holding on to my fortune teller advice, and things have been great since then. Yeah.
Let's listen to some music.
Yeah.
That's a Picture Window by Japanese Breakfast. I love what you said there, by the way. I love this story you're telling me, and I love the idea of finding out that you're thinking that you were going to die, or thinking that you were, and then finding out that when you remove yourself from it, a lot of that goes away, and trying to figure out how to get back into it. It's really beautiful. Tell me about Picture Window. I love this song.
Yeah, Picture Window is about the dynamic between my husband and I. My husband is we're very emotional opposites. I'm an extremely capricious, sensitive person, and he is very stoic, stable, gentle man. And sometimes, I'm the type of person, and I've been like this since I was a child, where if someone's half an hour late at night, I'm just like, they're dead. Or if
I've had a bit of that in my life. I know
him
that.
like smoking on a balcony, I will have this intrusive thought for, the whole 10 minutes that there is a world where he just falls off. And like, what would I do? I'd have to move him in with his parents or be institutionalized or something to cope with that depth. And he's someone that just doesn't have any anxiety. And he's which is like beautiful in a way. And the line about the only cries on Ferris wheels is that we've been together for 12 years now, and he's only cried. I've only heard about him crying one time, and it was on a Ferris wheel when he missed his brother's wedding. And so, it's just about that dynamic and that chorus, all of my ghosts are real, is kind of my justification of why I am this way, is because, I'm someone that has seen death firsthand very closely, and I've lost a lot of loved ones. And so all of these anxieties that I feel are rooted in real ghosts, you know? I mean, these are people that I carry with me in my life, and that's something that fortunately my husband hasn't really had to confront yet. And so, yeah, that song is about that kind of push and pull of what that dynamic is like and trying to explain my sort of perspective.
The veil. I have I lost a parent around the same time, same age that you were when you lost, and someone described it to me as, because I'm incredibly anxious, and and whenever my wife doesn't get home, and I'll be like, well, what happened? You know what I mean? Or not quite that. You know what I mean? Though, like you said, like I can go there very quickly. And someone said to me, and this might be too personal, but like someone said to me that when you lose somebody, the veil of it could never happen doesn't really matter anymore. Odds don't matter to you, was what she said. Like, the odds of that happening are slim. Yeah. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Yeah. I don't think about it.
It was wild. After my mom died, I became an incredibly scared person.
Me too.
Even just, I never was afraid about flying or anything. And now every time there's turbulence, I'm very nervous. So it exacerbates anxiety in a real way because you see the worst thing happen, and then you have to go on through life pretending or disavowing that could happen again, which it will. So
I'd love to hear some concrete examples. I love talking to you, by the way.
Thanks.
And I'd love to hear some concrete examples of, like, I don't know, what you're doing to protect your peace a little bit more on the road this time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to say I love the drink. I do, but I'm off the sauce for this run. I
love how you use two 1930s idioms there.
I will say
I love the drink.
I do. I'm a fun drunk and I like it. But I am not drinking on this tour, and it makes it easier. I'm getting older and the hangovers are not fun, and it helps me stabilize my mood and my nerves, I think, in a serious way. And yeah, I'm just doing really boring grown-up things like, yoga and eating healthy. And also there are just new rules. It used to be we were playing like 6 days in a row for 6 weeks, and that is not sustainable. So now we're doing 4 nights in a row. We have a bigger crew that, supports us in many ways. And yeah, it also really helps. I've been with this band and crew for a really long time. And so a big part of it is also that my husband plays in the band. My old bass player from my early 20s is with me. He's like a brother. My band is like my family in a way. So we're all very close. And my crew too, we've worked together for a long time now, and we really support each other and know how to kind of stay out of each other's hair and look after each other. So that's really important.
Sounds like you're saying no.
Yeah, and I'm saying no.
Yeah, that's what saying, that's what it is, right?
Only saying yes to high-profile radio
Canadian interviews. That's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say. Only yes to Canadians is what they. That's what they say.
Only this Canadian.
Only one Canadian a year, and it's
Tom Power.
And it's Tom Power. The last name has to be another word for something else. And Dave Soup wasn't available. That's just such a dumb joke. Let's hit the. Don't give me that, Vanessa. It was funny. Let's go to the last song. This is Mega Circuit. This is the grooviest song I've ever heard about toxic masculinity in my entire life. I really love that song.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk a little bit about it? I mean, I wanted to close off asking you about the drummer on it, but do you want to talk a little bit about the song?
Yeah, sure. So this was actually the first song that I worked on with Blake Mills. I was kind of speed dating producers, and then I went to Sound City, and he wanted to try working on this demo.
Let me interrupt you by saying who Blake Mills is for everybody. So Blake Mills started out in this band called Simon Dawes, which became Dawes. He ended up touring with Lucinda Williams for a really long time as her guitar player. He is truly a generational musician.
He plays with Joni Mitchell. He's worked on the Bob Dylan records.
Alabama Shakes.
Yeah, he's a coveted producer and session guitar player, and has great solo music as well. I think he's one of the greatest living guitar players of our time.
Me too.
I can hear the sound of his nails on strings. Like I was listening to a song the other day, and I didn't know he produced it, and I was like, I heard the sound of his nails on the string, and I was like, that's Blake, and it was wild. So yeah, he brought out, I think especially because we were sort of courting, he brought up all the big guns, and I knew I wanted to shuffle, it was kind of a lot of this record is a gift to my husband, I think, because my husband loves a shuffle, and he loves pedal steel, and so I knew that there were a couple of songs that I was gonna have to get those things on there for. But then he brought out Jim Keltner, who was a traveling Wilbury. He plays on, I think he's played on all of the Beatles side project albums.
Yeah,
and
he's on Imagine.
He's on Dreamweaver. If you look up Jim Keltner's, he plays on Here You Come Again by Dolly Parton. If you look up his all credits, it's pretty stunning. And he's a really cool guy. And Blake called him in. He's like, I think I think Jim would play really well on this. They call him the life giver. And it was stunning. I mean, I've just never heard someone operate in a pocket like that, to the point where there were some fills. There's a fill in that song that I was like, is that a mistake? Because it just was so wacky. And I had to sit with it for Blake was like, you have to sit with that for a couple days. And I did. And that was a lot of working with Blake, is just me maybe wanting like the direct road, wanting like that immediate payoff, and him sort of pushing for the more creative option, even if it's a little bit more challenging and difficult. And yeah, watching Jim drum was really, really special.
Were you there?
I was, yeah. I was, I've never worked with session players before. I come from DIY, so I've always just worked with my friends and like whoever's around. Or like, Craig, who's our drummer, he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife musician. He just plays everything. So to have specific session musicians with, very tailored skill sets come in and inject life into songs, I think was really new and special for me to be in LA making this record with Blake.
Did he do that thing where he has your lyrics up and he's playing along with I've heard he does that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and then he wears these little wristbands, and he has all these snares that have been on famous songs and stuff like that. So that was really, really special.
I want to do like a Jim Keltner lore podcast.
You should get him on here. He's such a sweetheart.
Is he?
He's a really nice guy. Yeah.
Great storyteller.
Yeah.
I hear, too.
Yes. He has some stories.
Michelle, I got to tell you, man, I told you this before we got going. Like, I knew that there was a story associated with this album, but I made the conscious decision last night to try and listen to it before I learned the story, or anything about it. It's just, the story you told me is so beautiful and powerful and relatable and liberating, honestly. And the record itself is just a great record of music. I don't know what to say besides that. It's just well-made, produced, excellent songwriting. Great record, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, hey?
Thanks for having me.